Hi everybody, welcome to another session. Today I'm going to be talking about another quick Revit tips and tricks. The agenda for today, I have 7 tips and tricks that I'd like to show. The first part I'm going to talk about is how to remove part of your CAD drawings using Revit. Second I'm going to talk about is how to have hatch follows the arc surface. The next one I'm going to talk about is the room boundary with using alternative instead of using line room separation line. Next one I'm going to talk about is related to room boundary is using level calculated height. Next thing I'm going to talk about is using area plan to generate your key plan. I'm also going to talk about flexible groups. So how do you use the groups, let's say assuming that your level is going to change, what you're going to do with that. And finally, I'm going to talk about is cheat your dimension. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys is simply just the AutoCAD portion. I know that sometimes when you receive files from consultant, you're not going to see anything because some of the objects are too far away. So let's assume that I'm going to open up a drawing, set the current view. Okay. I'm going to zoom extend. Okay. In certain cases, what happens is that when you zoom extend, you see your drawings like there's no drawings. It's because AutoCAD drawings sometimes have a lot of little bits and pieces inside that's far, far away. So in this particular case, what I want to do is that I want to, let's say, cut off this portion of this particular building. All I want to show is this play area. So the next thing I'm going to do is just turn that on. Okay, edit the crop. Let's assume that you can just hit delete and say that this is the portion I wanted to put in. Let's say. Now you can also do whatever shape you want just to cover part of the drawings you want to show. Oh yeah, I forgot to clean that up. There we go. Let's assume that that's what you want. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off and export this out. So let's see, I'm going to export the same CAD drawings. Now, keep in mind is that you want to keep everything preserved so that when you export it out, it's the same drawing. So I'm just going to overwrite that drawing. Okay, yes. All right, let's assume that in level 2, I'm going to add in those drawings. I'm going to click on that and say, show me that drawing. I like to keep it preserved and make sure that the correct line off axis is turned that off and say hit OK. You notice that voila. So you basically have CAD drawings that's basically crop off. Now when you check about the size of both drawings, you notice that this particular level is only 500 kilobytes versus if you have that, it's like a 1 megabyte. Now sometimes you're going to have drawings that's larger than that, let's say 5 megabytes, 6 megabytes. So if you can cut that down as much as possible, that would help tremendously. Right. Let's move on to the next tips and tricks is how do you add arc that hash follows the arc. So let's assume I'm going to hide this. Let's say you're doing an arc, right? The full arc. Okay. Here I'm just going to offset, let's say, gold meter. Oh yeah. Let's assume that this is kind of your arc. Now the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to basically say stone. And in here, what I want to do is that I want to add in, let's say there's a masonry here. If not, then we'll just create one. Ceramic tile, I'm just going to duplicate and say stone. The only difference is that I want a model line, since it's a hit new. Let's assume that this is 500 millimeter. oops, 90 degree, let's say 500 millimeter vertical. Okay, and hit OK, and hit OK. Put in variables, okay, and then hit OK. Now you're not going to see it because what happened is that sometimes this new template, everything is set hidden. Okay, this is what you're going to see. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on this and say, just give it like a really slight nudge. Let's say -1. You notice that that hatch suddenly follows a profile. Okay, with that little slight nudge, you can do that. Okay, I hope you learned something about this. Just a very simple thing. If you're doing a half arc, this will fail. I just tested it out earlier and then couldn't figure out why. Let's assume that you're doing like that. You notice that it basically kind of curl up. So this method can only work if it's a full arc. But let me try it again and say this one's good. This one I want to be -1. And again, it's not going to work. Okay, so just keep in mind. So it can only work with full. Now, if you want to do half arc, okay, there's a trick that you could use. Let's assume that you kind of have to use the full arc. Now, if you want to chop off the portion, I recommend using this vertical. Select that and say I'm going to chop off this part right there. But even if you do that, okay, that failed as well because it doesn't do it. Okay, doesn't work. My bad. So unfortunately, it only works if it's a full arc. It just doesn't want to do it. But what if you do this? Let me try. Let's try shaft. Does it work? Same thing. Okay. Again, it's a good way to experiment. Sometimes you see it works. Sometimes okay, you can do this. So I guess you need the full arc, except that you just want it to be half and half. So what you could do is that you can trick it to go like super tiny, so you won't show. Okay, let me try this. Let's say go super tiny. Let's assume going there, going there. Okay, still works, but you still have that little tiny bits. So that's the one thing that you kind of have to keep in mind if you are doing a lot of this curvature for landscaping and stuff like that. Just keep in mind. All right, so the next one I'm going to talk about is the room boundary alternatives. Now, in the past, what we typically do, I'm just going to do this, is that people would do this, right? So let's assume that you have no wall or anything. Just use room boundaries just to do your, just put in room. Just going to turn on the room. Oops, not the roof, the room. I'm just going to turn this on. Now, one of the things I don't like about using lines inside Revit is that it's very difficult to change height. Okay, so assuming that you have like a split level, for instance, there's no way you can actually control this. So what I typically recommend using is use a curtain wall. Okay, just use a wall. Change it to curtain wall. Okay, because curtain wall is way more flexible. Okay, within this you can say duplicate this and call room boundary. Within this room boundary, what you can do is that you can say I want it to be empty panel. Okay, just select the empty. There we go. And then what you can do with this is that there we. Benefit of this is that you can actually control what height you want to go. So let's say assume that I want to go to level 2 or even higher. Let's say project it out 8 meters. And let's say this one I want to go negative like 100 millimeters. So when I go to level 2, I can add it into the same room. Whereas this one, yeah, the room boundary, you can't do it. So in a lot of cases, if you're doing a lot of stairs, core that you want to go like from, let's say, the lowest level, level 1, up to like, let's say, level 40, you can use this room other. So what I would do typically is use this, going from the lower level all the way to the roof, and you just have one room boundary representing the rest. Okay, so you don't have to go in and just draw in all this room boundaries constantly. So you have one object that is a curtain wall representing 40 floors. Okay, rather than having one for every level. Going back to that, let's assume that you have a. I'm just gonna get rid of. Okay, let's assume you have this, right? Um, one of the things about this particular computation height, it becomes very important when when you're dealing with a lot of Revit projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw in a wall. Okay, I'm just going to use a typical wall, and I'm just going to copy in same room. So let's assume that one room's like that, the other one's like that. Now, sometimes what we tend to having is that this one is going to get offset by 800. You're going to get this error message where it's saying, okay, cannot found room, even though it's there. Revit is very tricky because, you can say base offset 800, adjust limit. You notice that it doesn't do anything. So what you're going to do is that you're going to go in here and you're going to define what's your computational height. Now, typically, I just use the same. Let's say if it's 4 feet, where you cut it, that's where I ended. Or you can say 5 feet. I typically ended just 5 feet. Okay. Let me set that up. You notice that the room right now, if I go to this, it starts to fill in again. So this becomes very important as you go into this. So I recommend if you're doing a massive project, I usually set them up as 5 feet computational height, so that every time when user just put in rooms, it's going to be there, okay, regardless of where you put it. So this will eliminate a lot of this room boundary nonsense that I'm seeing a lot of people are doing inside a project, because those room boundaries, typically what people do is that if they find out that doesn't work, is they keep adding in this room separation line, okay, just to get it to work. Now, the biggest issue with that is that sometimes this room boundary will clash with a wall. It just gives you an error. So why generate error just to get so that you can get this to work? So rather than doing that, it's better to just basically set this up and have a limit. So let's say 5 feet, and everything's done. All right, that's room level calculation height. The next one I'm going to talk about is that how you use area plan to generate key plan. So I know that Autodesk website, if you ever go to Google search, right, and say Revit key plan, it will go into this. This is, I would not recommend this method, but you know what? It is what it is. You could go and listen to it. What it's telling you to do is telling you to basically draw in a boundary inside your title block and get it done like that way. The unfortunate thing about key plans is that sometimes the key plans is so complicated. Sometimes you get into this error where the lines cannot be created. So I run into this a lot of issues. So I found out that there is a better method. It's just basically using your area plans. So I'm just going to just demonstrate by opening up one of the classic projects I'm working on. So let's open it up. Now, the reason why you use area plans is because area plans, you're going to be calculating your areas. At the same time, you have your boundaries in it and you have your areas in it. So basically what you can do with that is treat them as key plans. So what I mean by that is, let's go to a source view that I'm going to be using. Let's assume that you have a level 1. Okay. So you notice that all of this you can actually generate into a key plan. So what I'm going to do is that take this, I'm going to go duplicate this. Okay. Here I'm just going to call this key plan. Level 1. Make sure you just put in the level 1. Next thing you want to do is that you go in here, or what you can do here is that just say do not display. Okay, just turn off everything. Next thing you do is that you go in here, select all, just do not show up, or you can say, okay, I want to turn off section. I want to turn off elevation. I want to turn off reference plane. All the usual suspect. Scope box, section box, and all the stuff that you don't really need. Okay, and also I forgot the grid line, and the property lines. Just turn them off. Okay, so this is what you're gonna get. Okay, very simple key plan. So next thing you want to do is that for the areas, I'm just gonna turn this off, and for the lines, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make them very thick so that they're black and have like let's say 8, for instance. One thing I forgot to do is the lines. I want to be solid. Okay. Now, the benefit of this is that you can change this to, let's say, 1 to 100. That's what it looks like. It really depends. Let's say I'm going to have a sheet. Let's say a new sheet. I'm just going to use a generic title block. Okay, let's assume that this is the title block I'm using. So let's say I want to use my level. I'm just going to go duplicate this. Duplicate for now. Okay, let's assume that this is what I have. I want to use that. Just put it in. You kind of have to get the feel of it. Like first you add in the floor plan. Next you want to add in the key plan just to see whether or not it fits. So here I'm just going to go to my key plan, fit it in, and see if it fits. Okay, that looks like correct. Okay, there you go. There's your key plan. Here, what I typically like to do here is that I just go title with title line and just call it key plan. Key plan. Now, since this is too dark, what you can do is that you can adjust it. So you can go line. Okay, and just say make it like tone it down to like let's say 5 or 6. Let's go 6. Okay, there we go. Now, if you want to add colors to this, the benefit of using this as a key plan is that you can actually add color. You can customize the color and do whatever you want with it. So here I'm just going to go color for legend. Tell you that this is the suite whatever. Now here what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go in at this scheme and I'm just going to say building outline. Okay, there we go. You can have different sets. Now also if you want to do a key plan where you want to know what suites they're in, you can always say tag it, area tag. Okay, doesn't know what this is, so I'll go in here, unit area. Or actually, let's go unit type. Let's say this is C1. Okay, so it has its benefits. I like to use this because it is very flexible. You can change the color. You see that right now. I can just go in here and say this is what unit. And here I could just say, okay, this is a leader. And you can just easily show what kind of area plans you want to put in. It's very useful. I'm just going to show you kind of like how I did it for this particular project. This particular one, I have sheets. Let's go into the key plan. So in here, what I did is that I did this kind of a building where I just color code what they are. And in here, I have like this kind of a building, but it shares the same thing. So in here is that it's only showing this color. How I do this is that you can customize this to be to suit what you want. So in this particular case, I'm using suite name. If there is any other, let's say I'm going to duplicate this, right? And say suite name 2. Now, if you want to see how it's done, is that I basically make this thing visible. So all the suites with the name, I just say, okay, turn them to this kind of a color. Now, if I want to see CRU to be one color, I could say, okay, give me CRU for this particular case. See, I'm going to show that up. I'm going to make the CRU to be yellow. So I'm just going to go in here. Now, you could go solid fill, or you can say red. Let's assume that let's go into this particular red so that I can show you. The yellow is like you can't really see the hatch pattern. So in here, you can go solid. You can go diagonal down. Okay, so it looks like that. Just to show you, just as an illustration. Okay, so the rest I could just make it into a different color. And hit apply and say okay. And you notice that right now it starts to color all those stuff, and then you notice that this one is a different hatch. So it's a pretty powerful thing. You can actually customize a lot of your key schedule. So you can have like different types of key scheduling depending on what you want. Okay, I've used it a lot for this marketing plans, and also have one for just your building outline like this. Okay, you can use the traditional, put in all your key plans inside your drafting your title block, or the other method I've seen people done is that you create a legend and then you just put in your plans. But area plans is probably the most effective because as you change the area, this automatically regenerate your key plans. So it makes it way easier for you to manage so that you don't have to deal with constant, re-update all this legend. Okay, so everything's done instantaneously. So that basically covers the key plan in a nutshell. So lastly, well, not yet. I'm just going to talk about flexible group. Okay, so this one is going to be a little bit for user that either likes groups or hate groups. Okay, I have no qualms about both, but I've used them both. Especially when you're doing high-rise building, you need to have flexible group. So here I'm just going to copy this. All right. So I'm just going to copy in one of the suite from the previous project. So let's go to the upper level. Let's say I'm going to go level 3. Let's assume that you have a suite that you want to put in. Let's assume that I want to use this suite. Copy that. Use project 5. And here I'm just going to paste it in here. Say, oh, sure, why not? Okay, done. So you have this group right here. Now, by default, since let's change it to Imperial, since the previous project is Imperial. So in here, what I'm going to do is that let's assume this is 10 feet. Oh, okay. Assume that this is 10 feet. Now, the first thing I'm going to do before I do that, you notice that when I copy it in, it actually changed the height. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change that. Okay. Select all your walls. Okay. Notice that it's basically set to that. I typically say, okay, unconnected, and make it 9 feet total. So that way, what happens is that it doesn't matter if this is going to be 10 feet or not, it will not be affected. Let's say assume that that's 10 feet, and assume that that's 20 feet. Let's go and copy this up. Okay. All right. So once you have this, let me build a floor up above. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a floor. Let's assume that this floor is going to be 12 inches. Okay, so this is what you have. Copy this down to all of those except level 2. Okay, so assume that you have this, right? I'm going to copy this, paste it up, select it level. Let's go level 3 and 4. Level 3 and 4 is just kind of useless. That's fine. Let's assume that you want to change the height to level 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to select those groups with the wall. It can be tricky, but just bear in mind. Sometimes it can be very tricky to kind of select the wall you wanted. Okay, let's assume that you have that wall, and then when you attach it to the underside of that. Okay, so let's test this out. Let's see if it works. Okay, let's assume that you're going to move this up. Oh, very nice. Very nice. So you notice that what I did is that very simply, I made the wall all unconnected, right? This one did not connect to the underside of that particular floor. And what I did here is that I just basically attached those items to the underside. And now when I flex it, you notice that it follows with the floor changes. I know in some cases what tends to happen is that when you don't have this thing unconnected, and then when your floor level changes, what tends to happen is that it will break the group. Okay, that's basically what's going to happen. Let me demonstrate so that the user understand what really going on. So let me copy it in a group from this particular project. Okay, let's assume that I'm going to be using this group. That's going to be different. Copy that. And then in this particular level, I'm just going to go paste it in. Level. Okay, so let's say assume that this one, the wall itself, is attached to something, okay, to 2 level. Now, let's assume that I'm going to copy this particular, let's go there. Now, let's move it closer so you can probably see it. Let's assume that I'm going to move it somewhere there. Okay, so here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy this, paste it up, and let's paste it to level 3. Oh, that works. Let's paste it up in level 2. Second level, level 2. Okay, everything works fine. But once you start to have this thing going up, you notice that it tells you this message, oh, please fix the group. Okay, the reason why is that whenever you have a level that has 2 level constraints, what tends to happen is that Revit will find that, okay, as this level changes, it wants to follow those 2 level offset or 2 level constraints. And what happens is that if you find out that one particular level is different than the other, this will start to break. So rather than doing that, I do recommend user just always, if you want to make your group flexible, always set your wall to unconnected. Okay, that's the definite what you have to do in the beginning if you want to make your group kind of like flex within those levels. Okay, that's just a quick gist. You guys can just try it out on your own and see if it makes sense. But for me, this has been successful, and then I'm able to basically change level height without any issue using this method. Okay, finally, I'm going to talk about is cheat your dimensions. Okay, a lot of cases, what tends to happen is that people don't recommend you change levels. All right, in certain cases. What tends to happen, I have many scenarios where I have to cheat the dimension because it's either you cheat the dimensions or you spend the next 20 hours fixing the model correctly. Time is not an option because we have to get this thing out as soon as possible. So what I typically do is that you would cheat the dimension because it saves you time. At the same time is that once everything settles down, then you can go back and just make sure you fix the model. So how you cheat this dimension? Right now, let's say assuming that I want to cut this level by, let's say 6 inches, you can't. I don't want to rejig all that stuff. What would you do? You can say replace by text. Let's say assuming that you want this to be level 6. First thing is going to tell you that, okay, you can't do it. All right, there's a way you can cheat this. So how I do it is that I use what's my trusty character map. And in here, what you're going to do is you're going to search for a particular one that looks like this too. Okay, this is very good. When you select it, copy this. All you have to do is just replace the caret sign, the hit apply. All right, there we go. You cheat the system. Okay. Now, at the same time, what I typically do is that I would always add in a clause not to scale. Okay. Or what you can do is that tell your contractor this is just very quick to scale, so that they don't accidentally just go in there and have to measure it. Okay, that's how you cheat. Okay, other than that, that's pretty much it for today's session. So if you have any question or comments, just leave it down below. If you want to learn something new, just send me a suggestion.